Drew Lerner of World Weather joining us this weekend. Drew, it's turned off extremely dry in areas. Now we have this heat wave that's come through in a lot of parts of the country, but that dryness is now intensifying drought conditions across the Midwest, the Mid-South, and then also the East and the West. How dry has it been though, Drew?
The last 30 days have been very impressive. You can see that the majority of the Delta area and the lower Midwest have seen less than 25% of normal precipitation, surrounded by a much larger area in the entire lower Midwest, getting less than half of normal precipitation. And there are areas in the northern plains that are in the same boat, as well as that Atlantic coastal region from the mid-Atlantic up into the Northeast. So it's a large area, and this is just 30 days ended on the 9th of September. You can go all the way back through a big part of August and see the same scenario for the lower Midwest, the Delta, and the Western Tennessee River Basin area. So these areas are all really quite dry. And like you said, we've now got hotter temperatures coming up. This past week it was pretty chilly at times, and that really conserved the moisture, and the crops did okay. But those that are immature now are going to be subjected to some much greater heat on top of the dryness, and that's really going to push those immature crops a little bit harder and make that stress level all the greater. The latest soil assessment, it just drives this whole point home again. And you can clearly see that there's very little usable moisture on this chart. All the oranges and reds in both the top and subsoil moisture charts would suggest that the usable moisture for crops has been largely depleted from central and southern Illinois and parts of southern Missouri right on down to the heart of the Delta, including a fair amount of that Tennessee River Basin area. And this is the region that's going to have the most significant stress as move forward. Now it's dry out west. They do irrigate a lot of that. Some of the hard red winter wheat country has had some decent rain here recently, and planting is going to get going fairly well. And then there's Iowa and the northwestern Corn Belt in general, where there's been plenty of moisture around for quite a while. And that's really got these crops still rather green. And we do need to see a little bit more dry and warm weather. Well, we're going to warm it up, but we're also going to make it rain a little bit.
Drew, I have talked to so many farmers that had such high hopes for their soybean crops, and then the moisture just shut off. So why has this pattern been prevailing? What is causing it?
It's very interesting that over the past few weeks, we've been stuck in a weather pattern that has created a northwesterly flow often across the Midwest, aloft I'm talking about. And at the surface, you can go back into the first days of September and see that there's a surface high pressure system that sets over the lower Midwest, right on top of the drought area, actually. And if you look forward into the September 8th and period, that high pressure system largely did not move. And because the high pressure center is focused on those areas, the air circulation around it is clockwise. And so the wind is often blowing out to sea into the Gulf of America. And when that happens, you don't allow that Gulf moisture to come northward, and it can't rain. And the chart in the lower left-hand corner here clearly shows that the same pattern is going to be in place all the way out to the 17th of September. And so I think there's a lot of reason here for us to be in the boat we're in, but we've got to break this pattern down.
Okay, so now as we look at this pattern, how is it in fact impacting South America? I mean, as we're entering into the growing season there, a lot of eyes on what's going on in South America. Are we seeing the similar dryness there?
Actually, South America is looking very good right now. And if you go back over the past several weeks, you can find that most of the South American crop areas have had basically a normal precipitation and temperature regime for the most part. And as we move forward into the start of the spring planting season in South America, you would think that the same pattern might prevail, but there's some talk out there about this La Nina potential developing. And it's got a lot of people a little bit disturbed, to be honest with you. My experience says that when you have a La Nina event, if you're going to adversely impact the start of planting in Brazil or even eastern Argentina because of the La Nina presence, that La Nina event has to be already in place in August and certainly no later than early September in order to influence the start of the rainy season. Well, today we do not have a La Nina in place. We have a lot of chatter about it coming, and indeed it may sometimes show up maybe late September or more likely in October. And so with it not being present right now, this normal trend that's been prevailing in South America will just continue to prevail. there's no reason for the pattern to break up. And for that reason, I expect the month of September to have a fairly decent rain distribution across Brazil's center west and center south crop areas. Now, in September, it's not usually a tremendous amount of moisture, so we're looking for normal amounts of precipitation, but it doesn't start raining until the latter half of the month, and when it does, it's kind of scattered showers. But that early soybean crop is dependent on those scattered showers, and what I'm trying to suggest is that they will be there this year, unlike last year, and we'll be able to get started with the crop. Now, a little bit later, La Nina may kick in, and if so, it's probably going to create a little bit of a drier bias in eastern Argentina, Uruguay, maybe southern Paraguay, and certainly Rio Grande do Sul and some of the neighboring areas. But a full-blown significant La Nina is not very likely, and that's the reason why I think we're still going to have timely rain in those areas. It's just going to be lighter than usual. So when I step back and I look at the big picture for South America, I can't get very excited about a major problem for us in this coming planting season and the early weeks of development.
All right, Drew Lerner, World Weather. Well, the dryness here in the U.S., is that impacting the soybean crop? According to USDA, we had the latest crop production report just out Friday, and Michelle Rook joins us to digest that report and talk markets next.
You're watching U.S. Farm Report. Trusted, timely, tradition.